Welcome. I'm Mohammed Al-Sarraj from the United Nations Industrial Development Organization. I'm here to lecture, or not lecture. This lesson is for financial business counseling for growth. And we've got an entrepreneur. Would you introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Mohammed Alawi. I'm the director of the National Occupational Safety and Health Center, OSHO Center.
All right. So today, Mohammed Alawi was passed by my colleague for financial counseling for his growth. And my colleague told me that you're gonna invest around $750 to $1 million in the project that you're willing to do. How did you come up with this figure?
Sure. Well, over the next 3 to 5 years, what we're looking at is getting into certain projects which will require A, overhead, B, initial payments when it comes to managerial or performance bonds. And this is when you're talking about large-scale tenders, Mohammed, where we'll need to have these kinds of funds available. Okay, so based on our financial projections and safe estimates, okay, over the next 3 to 5 years, these are the numbers we believe are going to assist in financing certain projects in terms of the garment provisions, the industrial garment provisions, which we provide as part of our service lines, and the availability of technical, high-level engineers who are able to manage or partake in the different projects which we'll be involved in. And at this point of time, we're looking at infrastructure work, which is basically establishment of cities for certain populations, for local populations. And these projects are very high risk, on heavy deadlines, require large funds, and of course, having the right team and the right personnel will require significant investment.
Fair enough. Did you do some budgeting to the project?
Sure. Before every project, what we do is we have a committee, okay? And this committee is comprised of the operations department, the business department, and the finance or the accounting department. And we look at the feasibility from all three levels or three lines. And of course, the main or the critical one at this point of time for us would be the financial. So we look at the project feasibility from a financial standpoint. A, when we are introducing the overhead to the initial project, and it of course depends on the payment plan or payment methodology of the client. And B, the return, how far and how soon and how distant we'd be looking at getting these funds and our margins as well.
And in the study of your return, what is it based on? How did you study the market for you to know how much sales you'd get?
For us to know how much sales we get? Well, I think that's a good question. We are looking obviously at the kind of investment each industry has. So for example, if we're looking at the Kingdom of Bahrain or the state of Qatar where we are currently established, we look at what kind of budgets these companies are providing, okay? And we study the previous budgets of, let's say, the last 3 to 5 years, okay? And based on that, we identify that on XYZ, let's say $10 million in investments, okay? We're able to say that, okay, our company can partake in these kinds of projects if we have the capability and if we have the financial feasibility and we have the business sense.
So you've got some type of forecasting.
It's, we call it some kind of educated estimation. That's the best which we can do at this point of time.
So projection, forecasting. Do you have some kind of maybe an income statement or a forecasted income statement?
Of course, we have updated income statements. We file for our documentation every year. with the law firms. We're very established. We actually utilize a quality management system. It is known as an ISO 9001, 2008, which is the last standard. And this, across all the levels of organization, includes the finance as well. So we have a good system of upkeep, maintaining our returns, ensuring that we collect our funds, ensuring that we pay the employees, ensuring that we maintain operating expenses and availability, and ensuring some kind of liquidity, especially as you've kindly mentioned for these projects which we'll need to finance.
Okay, so you said that you've got some forecasting. Have you done forecasting before, like for your existing business? You have some forecasting,
Sure,
right?
sure.
Do you compare it with the actual?
It's in terms of benchmarking, you mean? Okay. Well, we've just recently adopted this kind of setup. So what we're looking at is hopefully seeing the end result. Obviously, comparing, identifying what kind of intervals, the margins of error, hopefully, which will be very small.
Hopefully, yeah.
Okay. And of course, we're hoping that UNIDO can help us in this.
Definitely.
Kind of setup.
I would love it if you could email me the projections and the forecasting you've already done.
Sure.
And what the actuals since you started, like if you started in January, the forecasting for the year of 2000 per se.
Yeah.
And we are in September now.
Yes.
I want your actual until September.
Okay, so over the last 9 months, what our actual income or what our revenues were.
So I could compare it to the forecasting and see how you are doing in terms of forecasting for the growth project. So we could really study, like we could know the margin of error, and maybe I could tell you where you could do it better for next time. So you already know where you're going to spend your money?
Well, what we're looking at, again, is hopefully by getting the right counseling, is that this is our, again, projection estimation, okay? We are looking at market trends and we're looking at the requirements. If we are investing heavily on our product line, which involves a universal supply chain process ranging from Europe, where we're getting our raw material, to Asia, where we are manufacturing it into textiles, and then in Bahrain, where the garment production actually takes place, and outreach to the end user, in which we are dealing directly with, and maintaining the supply chain as a whole will require us to, of course, understand the financial requirements on each and every step of this process.
Fair. And do you have a business plan?
We do have a business plan, yes. Of course, it's important for us to know what we're getting ourselves into prior to any entrance into any new field or any new business. However, of course, it's always open to amendments, it's always open to updates, and sometimes we say there are certain opportunities that might not be complementing the business plan, but if they occur, of course, will require a different plan, maybe plan B or plan C.
And what about the source of financing? Have you thought of this yet?
Well, at this point of time, Hamad, we are using the current operating expense as financing, which is a little bit of a difficulty, to say the least, given the current revenue stream, given the current revenue line that's coming to the company. So, of course, what we're looking for is to have some kind of equity, maybe, or a financial injection into the firm, which will help it stop focusing on maybe the small, or put the focus on the small aspects of maybe operating expenses and maintaining the personnel salaries, for example, and what have you, all on the time, okay, and focusing more on the expansion process, which is as you've kindly mentioned, what we're looking for in this counseling session.
Good. And you say you need some, maybe a joint venture, in other words?
Well, we are open to discussion. I think if we look at all available options, whether be it a venture capital, high net worth individuals in terms of investment, I do believe that loans are an interest to us. However, as I mentioned in the previous session, it's not just about the financials, it's also about the right counseling and the right mentorship and the right partners. So if we have a medium, let's say such as your kind organization to help us in this matter, we'd be very happy in looking at the options that would be available to us.
Good. So I could maybe link you up with a investor, or maybe a joint venture, someone that could join your growth.
Great.
And what else would you need me with?
Well, of course, I think contingency planning from a financial standpoint is important at this point of time. And as any organization is, we have to roll with the punches, as they say, especially when it comes to finance, looking at market trends, looking at different growth of countries and organizations which we want to work with, which we want to work for. So, of course, having some kind of options as well. I believe it's always important to have different financial options for us, and hopefully UNIDO can, with your counseling and with your expertise, help us in looking at the different scenarios and the different possibilities for us when it comes to the right financing for the right projects.
Good. Do you need any equipment that we could help you find as ITPO?
At this point of time, of course, we are, as I mentioned, always looking for new technology. So whatever complementary products, be it for the industrial garments or be it for the service provision of personnel, consultancy, technical training. We have a full-fledged technical training center which we'd be interested in having equipment for. Probably that will be great in terms of financing, having the right machinery, having the right tools. And we'd be looking hopefully to sit down with UNIDO and go through these kind of equipment, probably some kind of machinery, some kind of apparatus, okay, in terms of the setup, and whatever it is that will make the experience of our clients when it comes to training and the other services as well, more value-adding, more beneficiary, giving them the right results and the deliverables which we had promised.
But you do not have a specific need of a machine?
Not at this point. At this point of time, we are moving on with whatever current available and limited resources we have.
Okay, fair enough. All right, so now we're gonna go more in depth in the financial projections. So throughout your study in the project, how would you rate, like, how much laborers do you need?
Okay, well, let me give you an example, Mohammed, in terms of what we have done in terms of our financial projections or financial estimations of some project. Because when you're looking at service-based products, as you've mentioned, it's different from looking at product-based products or product-based manufacturing, yes. So from a service standpoint, there is a requirement for minimal overhead, but over a long period of time and duration. When it comes to a product, it's on delivery, on requirement. You are looking at specific payment methods from clients, which are difficult to negotiate if you're looking at tenders or certain projects. So from a service standpoint, if I may, I can give you an example of. We had a project in which our company was hired by the main contractor of a infrastructure for a city in the state of Qatar, and we were required to manage all the activities happening underground. Okay, So we are in charge of the safety, health, and environment taking place for all of the contractors and all of the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing works. This is called MEP activities. So what we needed to do was we needed to mobilize a full-fledged team of individuals with maintaining zero turnover, okay? And this is to ensure the continuity of the business with the client, because this is part of the service provision or the service level agreement. We needed to make sure that people were on the project, on time, with their accommodations, and this was before we had established any regional offices. So we were mainly or remotely managing this project. And we had to make sure that not only were we meeting the technical requirements, but also the financial requirements.
The most important.
So in that context, we had to put up front or suggest some kind of forecast for this project. So we put up front a fund, which we had addressed it to be allocated for X project. And this is hopefully something that you can assist us with, which is in the future, we are interested in sort of narrowing down the financial feasibility per project. We're currently new to this practice. So what we did was we allocated a special fund for this project, and we had contingency as well. And we looked at the possibility of maintaining the personnel and keeping it in a proper scenario. However, there were some complications. We had some individuals, because of the nature of the project, you know, we're talking about heavy industry, heavy infrastructure, very difficult projects. You know, you're talking about 33 nationalities. This was a big, massive project, and which were being managed by our company. So what we had to do was we had to keep the people happy. You know, and when you're dealing with service-based practices,
Definitely.
you have to make sure that the finances are going through, the operating expenses are met, the salaries are on time, if not before time. And we had to maintain on every level of requirement these numbers and these expenses. So it was good that we kept the contingency as part of this scope, and we were able to lead the project to its success, get our returns, get a good profit margin, and have a good standing relationship with the client. Another example, which, if I may, was provision of the garments, which is currently in process. Because of the supply chain nature, we're covering different continents when it comes to the product. So we have some of the raw material coming in from Europe, being manufactured in Asia, and reaching to the Kingdom of Bahrain. And of course, you're talking about expenses, you're talking about shipping, you're talking about resource allocation, you're talking about labor, you're talking about equipment and maintenance and material. And there's so many direct, and we've learned in the last few years, indirect expenses that can take place. And what we've seen was that you know, it's important for this product specifically, because it's high-end nature and we're providing it to high-end clientele, to have high overhead. This is the nature of the work. The high overhead is a requirement in the initial phase because of the production requirements, and later the return will come either in phases, depending on how the client sees the project financial breakdown, or on a lump sum payment. So it's important for us to sit down, calculate the numbers properly, identify how we see the supply chain process, not only from an operational standpoint, but from a financial standpoint, which is very crucial, because you're looking at huge repercussions when it comes to not meeting deadlines, when it comes to lack of product delivery or lack of service. And you know, we have to have that upkeep. If we're looking at production capacities, and we're looking at the labor, and we're looking at the shipping and handling and logistics of the matters, all of this is expenses. In the end of the day, what our client cares about is getting the product, and the whole supply chain process to them becomes irrelevant, because we're there, we're the face, and we have to worry about our own financials, our own numbers, and the numbers have to match, and the numbers have to look good for these companies to even work with us. So we try and make sure that we have the right numbers, we have the right projections, and as I mentioned, contingency planning is critical and is crucial at this point of time. So we are definitely interested to see what kind of options and what kind of feasibilities would be available by UNIDO to help us more or less improve on the lessons learned, look at the rooms for improvement, and hopefully better finance future projects or future prospects.
But yet again, Mr. Mohammed, you did not answer my first question. How much are you investing in the labor
Okay.
of this project, of the group?
Okay. The labor, which is one component of the work, is we're looking at, as I mentioned earlier in the numbers, 750,000 as a whole investment.
Okay.
And we're looking at a annual cost for the labor at about north of 60,000 or $60,000 to $70,000.
Well, wouldn't you say that this is quite a lot?
Well, depending on our production capacity, it's all relevant to the number of people we'll need, to the administrative requirements which we'll need to bring them. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so if you recall, I mentioned the indirect expenses, which play a big factor when it comes to bringing these personnel over. So we're looking at different kinds of numbers. We're looking for visas. We're looking for access. We're looking for local employment as well, and all of these issues are translated further when it comes to other country establishments, which I know that UNIDO helps from a business level standpoint, but also there's a lot of financial requirements if we are to create setups in different countries. And we're looking at tax, we're looking at shipping costs, we're looking at delivery requirements, and as you're aware, all of these are costs. So labor is definitely part of it, as part of the overall requirement. It might, as I mentioned, it's north, and it's an estimation. Hopefully, if you see the numbers, you can maybe help us in proper, financial packaging for this.
I would really appreciate it if you would send me those numbers.
Absolutely.
What about, would you need any machines for that project?
Sure. As you know, in a manufacturing process, there's assembly lines. So it's not only the labor, the manpower, we call them the skilled manpower, which is needed for these kinds of activities, or this kind of production. It's also machinery. So at this point of time, we're looking at a production capacity of about 15 to 20,000 garments a year, starting hopefully in the latter part of 2012 and all throughout 2013. And we're currently utilizing some of the current available technology, but we do need some machinery to increase the output. So we're looking at increasing the output from maybe 10,000 to 15,000. That's 5,000 additional garments. Okay, and the requirement is increased. We're looking at some machines. We're looking at financing some of this kind of equipment, and so these prices range from 250, 300. Some of them reach $500,000 as well. So we're going to obviously try and limit this kind of cost, have some kind of financial breakdown for it, and to see how we can pay off this kind of machinery in the future, and get it to yield the right results which we need. And that's part of the overall cost, which I had mentioned to you earlier, the overall equity or financial injection we're interested in getting.
Where'd you get the number of not production, of demand on the production?
Well,
how did you study it?
Well, that's a great question. The numbers that we look at from the requirement or the capacity standpoint is based on RFPs, or request for proposals, or RFQs, request for quotations, which is a long common standard practice for large companies, be it in oil and gas, process, manufacturing, military, aluminum and steel. So these kinds of companies have their personnel and their employees who are required to utilize or wear this kind of apparel because of the safety requirements or the associated hazards, excuse me. And therefore, based on their current number or current head count, okay, that goes into the proper financial estimation, okay, and in turn the production requirement, which we'll need. So as I mentioned, we sit in our committee, okay, which involves the different personnel or the different departments, and we address in this committee all the requirements, and of course the financial being critical and crucial one, because these kinds of projects are much more critical and require a large financial obligation when it comes to us, and thus they must be studied to a T. Therefore, it's important for us to look at the numbers, as I mentioned, financial feasibility, and this all depends on the client requirement.
Fair. And those RFPs are only for you, or are they sent to other competitors as well?
Well, you know,
Because do you have this market? Like if you buy this machine, do you have the market that you get? It's yours.
Again, great question. We are in a heavily competing market, okay? And as everything is required, we have to look at cost. You know, it's not just about the product, it's about also minimizing the cost in order for the company in turn to have some kind of significant, substantial, or even possible profit margin, okay, for us to grow and to sustain. So we are not alone when it comes to these requests. You are looking at either local tenders, which are issued, or international tenders. And when you are in the international tenders, or even local, depending on what kind of business you're on, you're competing with established companies that have been doing these kinds of activities for years. And they have maintained their overhead, and their financial projections are, you know, much more solid than ours, given their current standing in the market. So if we stand a chance to compete on a service level, on a product level, on a quality level, okay, we have to do the proper, we have to look at the numbers properly and look at the nitty-gritty, so to speak, to make sense of all of our costs, and to make the product work, to make it work, to make the delivery on time. Yes.
To sell it, in other words.
To sell it,
again,
exactly.
You're gonna buy machinery for around 300 to 500,000. That's a bit expensive for you if you're not sure that you will get that demand.
Sure.
What is your capacity right now of
production? Well, we're currently at 10,000 units.
The 10,000 is sold 100%?
It's based on demand. So as I mentioned, with these requests for proposals or request for quotations, we have 2 to 3 year contracts with companies, which are set. So upon the completion of this contract, a new tender is issued, and then we have to compete again. But if we are to reach or go to other companies which may have bigger requirements, we need some investment. We need to grow our production capacity, because all of these are the initial and the primary requirements of these companies. If we cannot meet them, then we are not able to even participate in these tenders. So they always look at production capacity. They look at the skilled labor. Okay, they look at even the human rights requirements in these kinds of facilities. So all of these issues, including the health and safety of it, which is our complementary business, and we're supporting it in that context, alongside all of the other requirements, is part of our overall service provision.
Fair. Let me see. So you are going to send your financials for me?
Correct.
Have you found any sources of financing yet?
Well, we are at this point of time looking at as you've mentioned, what kind of projects there are, what kind of requirements there would be, okay, on one side. And on the other side, we're looking at what kind of options which we have. I know you've mentioned the venture capital, you've mentioned the proper business networking, and I think that if we, we have to look at it from a not just a business standpoint, but also financial standpoint, maybe even personal, because this is our company, this is our organization. We built it without the inclusion of other entities, be it financial or personal. Okay, of course, it's always good to bring in fresh ideas, fresh resources, new methods of management, new methods of financing, and overall projections for projects. So, if we sit down, maybe you can give me an idea. What kind of, what kind of options do companies like us have? I think that would help us in grasping the potential, because we're following the different markets, we're following the industrial requirements, we're following the expansions, and we're right where we should be, in my opinion. Okay, but it's not just a question about that. It's all the chips have to fall in place. Definitely. And financials are critical. We're competitive. We have to have competitive advantages, and part of this of the supply chain process is local manufacturing. This is a very critical step, and this required high initial overhead, Mohammed. And this is what we hope to establish from this, is that companies would not be looking to the international markets for the products if they can get them manufactured locally or regionally. Yes, it's a steep financial investment, but the payout for it is good. And this gives us competitive advantage, because you've asked me if we are competing with companies. Yes, we are. And we're competing with high-end, strong, established organizations. And if we are unable to compete with them on a quality level, product level, cost level, financial level, service level, then we should not exist as an organization, as some people may say.
So, Mohammed, for your machine, I would like you to do me one thing. Sure. I want you to send me an email of the something more technical, exactly what the machine is for, how many you want, how many units it can produce, how many units.
Sure.
And what else?
What we have is the, maybe this will help. I've already requested certain companies, like there's some Asian firms and there's some European firms who are providing this kind of equipment. So I've already requested some kind of spec sheet, specification sheet, as well as some general costing for it, because we, this is an initial machine. However, as you are aware, if we are to increase capacity, we're going to need future machines as well.
Exactly. Do not forget, not only future machines, but do not forget the more laborers,
sure,
delivery people, like to man the machine itself.
Sure. Of course, this is as you've mentioned, as you properly mentioned, is a major requirement. It's not just the direct cost that goes into it, and we've learned this. We've gotten a lot of support from your organization when it comes to that understanding, and hopefully it gives us a better idea in the future. A lot of indirect expenses go into this, and if we can, sit down and compare apples to apples, as they say, that's going to give us a better idea of where we stand, and hopefully what we can reach. We have our numbers, we have our projections, and we have a ambition or goal or objective, okay, on all levels of the organization. Financial, of course, being one of the critical ones. So if we are able to, not have very high, because of course, we're not looking for extremely high returns. At this point of time, we're looking for something slow and sustainable, okay, at least at this point of time, until we have a solid financial infrastructure. So we're hoping also to get some kind of recommendation on where maybe we can put some kind of lid or ceiling, if it's possible, on the financials, so we don't, go crazy in terms of expansion and then we have to regress and go back. We're looking for something specific and sustainable, even with understandable or reasonable ROIs.
Fair enough. I think, do you have anything more?
No, I really want to thank you for your time, and I hope that you can help us in this matter. It's of course important to companies like us who don't have maybe the proper or the necessary tools to look at proper numbers, accountings, financials, systems. And if we are able to, get your experience and get your expertise, you work with international companies and entities and organizations around the world. I'm sure a small setup like our organization would heavily benefit from your expertise and experience. And I'd be more than happy to share the numbers and hopefully get some good figures in the next time period.
Definitely. Thank you. Thank you for listening.